Good afternoon, all passengers and crew of MS Oscar Wilde. This is your captain speaking.
I'm sorry to tell you that we have yet more new cases of COVID-19 on board, so our quarantine must continue, and we are still not permitted to disembark. I know how distressing and inconvenient this is, so I've asked Debbie, our entertainment officer, to provide some distraction for us all. Over to you, Debbie!
Hello there. So normally towards the end of the cruise, the ship's company present a show to entertain the passengers. My team have been rehearsing a socially distanced version of Oscar Wilde's marvellous play, The Importance of Being Earnest. However, at some point, the social distance became shortened to the length of a bottle of gin. And, well, long story short, they are the new cases of COVID that the captain was referring to. So I'm without a cast. But the show must go on, and I'm asking any passengers and crew who are well enough to volunteer to take over. Luckily, we've got some costumes and props, so...
No, you haven't!
Sorry to interrupt. Everything was contaminated and has been impounded, so you'll have to make do with what you can cobble together.
Oh, I see. Well, I'm sure you're all a creative lot out there. The script is online, so please now log on to the ship's Zoom account. Deesh and IT has set up a link, haven't you, Deesh?
Yes, just a second.
Yeah, while he's sorting that out, Debbie, let me tell you, I've decided I'm going to take over directing the play.
You direct? But are you sure you got the right people skills?
People skills? Ha, you can forget all that lovey nonsense. We need to whip this thing into shape fast, and that means me. Besides, your talents are best served by being in the cast. With your personality, I see you as Lady Bracknell.
Lady Bracknell? I'm far too young for that, thank you very much. If I must be in it, I shall play Cecily.
Well, she's meant to be 18. But, well, we're going to have to make do with whatever we can find, so needs must. You'll have to shorten the script as well, or we'll never get it done. Ah, people are logging on. Is that you, Pete?
Reporting for duty, sir. What with me being a steward, sir, I thought I could take the role of one of them butlers.
Yeah, very good. And you, madam?
Hello. Am I on? Oh, yes. Hello, I'm Kate. I'd love to be in it, please. You see, my hobby's amateur dramatics, and I think I could really bring something to your production. I'd be really rather good as Cecily. Don't you agree?
Yeah, we've already got a Cecily. You can be Miss Prism.
Oh, all right. And there's my sister, if you want her for a smaller role. Celia, turn your camera on. She's in our bathroom.
We've been stuck together in this cabin for weeks now, and this is the only place I can get any peace. I'm hopeless at acting, I'm afraid, but if there's a part for a maid or something, I suppose I could manage that.
Well, there's Lane, the manservant, if we're doing gender-blind casting, sir.
Well, we'll be turning a blind eye to a lot, so yes, you play Lane, Celia. Who can we get to be the glamorous Gwendolyn?
Well, there's Alexandra from the beauty salon. Are you logged on, Alex?
Yeah, hi there. Actually, I'm not sure if Oscar Wilde's my thing, to be honest.
Well, let's see how we go. Any other takers?
Well, hello, everybody.
Oh, yes, I'll be in it.
I'm in it too, Charlie.
So am I.
Hello, Charlie. Sir, Charlie'd be perfect as Algernon, don't you think?
Charlie, I seem to be the only one here who doesn't know you. Algernon's meant to be charming and idle. Which are you?
Well, to remain charming, one can never afford to be idle.
The part's yours. Now, 2 more men to find. Who's that switching on now?
You don't know me either, Captain. In fact, I haven't met any of you yet.
Welcome aboard. Am I right in guessing you're from the States?
Yeah, Boston. I'm supposed to be on my way back there now to speak at a conference. That's why I haven't seen you. I've been glued to my laptop writing my speech. Oh, it's Ned, by the way.
Well, Ned, I've still got to find someone to play Chasuble, the clergyman, but you look like you could take the role of Jack, the other male lead. He's someone who is respectable, but leading a double life.
Leading a double life? No, that doesn't sound like me at all. I'm actually a professor of theology, so the clergyman's the obvious choice for me.
Oh, excellent, a match made in heaven. Don't know what to do about casting Jack, then. Pete, you'll have to do it instead of being the butler.
But, sir, Jack's meant to be, well, high society.
I can posh up, sir. In the circumstances in which we find ourselves, It is incumbent upon us all to take every opportunity for self-betterment.
Right. That just leaves the problem with Lady Bracknell. Do we know a slightly older lady who can throw her weight around?
Well, there's Verity in the cabin next door. The only thing is, she is the shyest person on the ship. Let's give her a try. Verity! Verity, we know you're logged on. Turn on your camera.
I would really, truly rather not.
You look like you could be a right old Gorgon.
Well, I'm not sure.
What he means is you can act the part, Verity. Unlock your inner tyrant.
I'm sure you could get the right look. You must have a big hat in your travel bag.
A travel bag? I have a portmanteau, if that's what you mean.
Now we're getting somewhere. Look, Verity, just think of all the times you've wanted to be able to answer back. Well, like to me just now. Bring that feeling to every line you have to say, all right?
Well, I'll try not to let you all down.
That's a full cast then, or if there's anyone I've missed, I'll step into the breach.
Okay, thank you, everybody. So when it comes to rehearsing, I think the best plan would be for people to work on their individual scenes in pairs.
I'm directing this.
And I'd like everyone to start working on their individual scenes in pairs.
But that's just what I said.
Pete and Charlie, you can get going on the Jack and Algernon stuff. In fact, Charlie, could you give Pete some coaching on that accent of his?
What, like a how now, brown cow, that kind of thing?
And the rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain.
Charlie, can you help me with my accent too?
Well, we really have everything in common with America nowadays, except, of course, language. Of course, I will, old man, no problem. Pleasure.
Actually, Charlie, I'm sure I could be some help to you with the voice work. People often comment on how I speak.
No, you can advise on costume and makeup. Tish can help you find those moustachy things on Zoom.
You mean like this? Yeah, yes, I'll do that.
I suppose I should have some facial hair to play the manservant.
You've got plenty of that already.
Oh, hardy.
Celia and Kate, could you help Verity stop feeling shy and get her up to speed on Lady Bracknell?
Yeah, Kate will be great at that. She's had lots of practice trying to find a new self.
Or a new start. Yes, I'm sure we can knock you out of your shell, Verity.
Well, I don't want to be a nuisance.
Oh, sir, I'd like to volunteer to coach Verity. I've got lots of experience of directing people who are new to acting.
Okay, Debbie. Right. I'd like to thank everyone for observing the quarantine restrictions, and I hope this will help pass the time. We'll have group rehearsals every afternoon. Deesh will broadcast performance live to the whole ship on Friday the 19th.
Roll on, Friday the 19th.
Excellent.
Something familiar, something peculiar, something for everyone, a comedy tonight. Something appealing, something appalling, something for everyone, a comedy tonight. Nothing with kings, nothing with crowns. Bring on the lovers, liars, and clowns. Old situations, new complications. Nothing portentous or polite. Tragedy tomorrow, comedy tonight.
Okay, right, everybody focus now. Remember, a fast show's a good show. And we are not doing the play that goes wrong. Right. Okay. Can we please check back in at the interval? Deesh, is our audience logged on?
Yeah, yes, sir, that they're online, that they're watching.
Then let's have the opening captions.
Yes, just coming up and... Oh, no. No, I'm not a cat. Sorry.
For he is an Englishman. For he himself has said it, and is greatly to his credit, that he is an Englishman. Oh, he is an Englishman. And in spite of all temptations to belong to other nations, he remains an Englishman. He remains. Oh, Lane, did you hear what I was singing?
I didn't think it polite to listen, sir.
Oh, well, I'm sorry for that for your sake. I don't sing accurately. Well, anyone can sing accurately, but I sing with wonderful expression. Have you got the cucumber sandwiches cut for Lady Bracknell?
Yes, sir.
Oh. He is an Englishman. Oh, he is an Englishman.
Mr. Ernest Worthing.
What brings you up to town, dear?
Oh, pleasure, pleasure. What else should bring one anywhere? Eating as usual, I see, Algy.
What? I think it's customary in good society to take some slight refreshment at 5 o'clock. Where have you been since last Thursday?
In the country.
What on earth do you do there?
Oh, when one is in town, one amuses oneself. When one is in the country, one amuses other people. It is excessively boring.
And who are these people you amuse, huh?
Oh, neighbours.
Yeah, you've got nice neighbours, have you, in your part of Shropshire?
Perfectly horrid. Never speak to one of them.
Oh, how immensely you must amuse them. By the way, Shropshire is your county, is it not?
Oh, Shropshire, yes, of course. Hello. Well, why all these cups? Why cucumber sandwiches? Why such reckless extravagance in one so young? Who is coming to tea?
Oh, merely Aunt Augusta. And Gwendolen.
Oh, how perfectly delightful.
Yes, that's all very well, but I'm afraid Aunt Augusta won't quite approve of your being here.
May I ask why?
Well, my dear fellow, the way you flirt with Gwendolen is perfectly disgraceful. Do you know it's almost as bad as the way Gwendolen flirts with you?
I'm in love with Gwendolen. I have come up to town expressly to propose to her.
I thought you said you'd come up for pleasure. I call that business.
How utterly unromantic you are.
I really don't see anything romantic in proposing. It's very romantic to be in love. There's nothing romantic about a definite proposal. Why, one may be accepted. One usually is, I believe. Yeah, then the excitement's all over. No, the very essence of romance is uncertainty. If I ever get married, I'll certainly try to forget the fact.
I have no doubt about that, dear Algy. The divorce court was specially invented for people whose memories are so curiously constituted.
Oh, there's no use speculating on that subject. Divorces are made in heaven. Please don't touch the cucumber sandwiches. They're ordered specially for Aunt Augusta.
Well, you've been eating them all the time.
Well, that's quite a different matter. She's my aunt. Yeah, have some bread and butter. The bread and butter is for Gwendolen. Gwendolen is devoted to bread and butter.
And very good bread and butter it is too.
Well, my dear fellow, don't eat it as if you're going to eat it all. You behave as if you were married to her already. You're not married to her already, and I don't think you ever will be. I don't give my consent.
Your consent?
My dear fellow, Gwendolen is my first cousin, and before I allow you to marry her, you will have to clear up the whole question of Cecily.
Cecily? What on earth do you mean? What do you mean by Algy, by Cecily? I don't know anyone of the name of Cecily.
Well, perhaps you'd care to look at this cigarette case.
Do you mean to say you've had my cigarette case all this time? I was very nearly offering a large reward.
I wish you would offer one. I happen to be more than usually hard up.
There's no good offering a large reward now that the thing is found.
I think that's rather mean of you, Ernest, I must say. However, it makes no matter, for now that I look at the inscription inside, I find that the thing isn't yours after all.
Of course it's mine. You've seen me with it 100 times, and you have no right whatsoever to read what is inside.
Ah, yes, but this isn't your cigarette case. This cigarette case is a present from someone of the name of Cecily. And you just said you didn't know anyone of that name.
Well, if you want to know, Cecily happens to be my aunt.
Your aunt?
Yes, charming old lady she is too. Oh, just give it back to me, Algy.
Oh, yeah, no. But why does she call herself Little Cecily if she is your aunt? From Little Cecily with her fondest love.
My dear fellow, what on earth is there in that? Some aunts are tall, some aunts are not tall.
Ah, yes, but why does your aunt call you her uncle? From little Cecily with her fondest love to her dear Uncle Jack. I mean, I admit there is no objection to an aunt being a small aunt, but why an aunt, no matter what her size might be, should call her own nephew her uncle, I can't make out. And besides, your name isn't Jack at all, it's Ernest.
It isn't Ernest, it's Jack.
You've always told me it was Ernest. You're the most earnest-looking person I ever saw in my life. It's on your cards. Here. Mr. Ernest Worthing, B4, the Albany. I'll keep this as proof that your name is Ernest.
Well, my name is Ernest in town and Jack in the country. And the cigarette case was given to me in the country.
Yes, but that does not account for the fact that your small Aunt Cecily calls you her dear uncle. Oh, come on, old boy. You'd better have the whole thing out at once.
You talk exactly as if you were a dentist.
I may mention that I have always suspected you of being a confirmed and secret Bunburyist, and I'm quite sure of it now.
Bunburyist? What on earth do you mean by a Bunburyist?
Right. I'll reveal to you the meaning of that incomparable expression as soon as you are kind enough to inform me why you are Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
Produce my cigarette case first.
Here it is. Now, produce your explanation and pray make it improbable.
My dear fellow, there is nothing improbable about my explanation at all. Old Mr. Thomas Cardew, who adopted me when I was a little boy, made me in his will guardian to his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew, who addresses me as her uncle from motives of respect that you could not possibly appreciate. She lives at my place in the country under the charge of her admirable governess, Miss Prism.
Oh, yes. And where is that place in the country, by the way?
There's nothing to do with you, dear boy. You are not going to be invited. I may tell you candidly that the place is not in Shropshire.
Well, I suspected that, my dear fellow. I've been bumbering all over Shropshire on 2 separate occasions. Now, go on.
When one is placed in the position of a guardian, one has to adopt a very high moral tone on all subjects. And as a high moral tone can hardly be said to conduce much to either one's health or one's happiness. In order to get up to town, I've always pretended to have a younger brother of the name of Earnest, who lives in the Albany and gets into the most dreadful scrapes. That, my dear Algy, is the whole truth.
I was quite right in saying you were a Bunburyist. You know, you're one of the most advanced Bunburyists I know.
What on earth do you mean?
Well, you've invented a very useful younger brother called Earnest, in order that you may be able to come up to town as often as you like. I have invented an invaluable permanent invalid called Bunbury, in order that I may be able to go down into the country whenever I choose. I mean, Bunbury is perfectly invaluable. I mean, if it wasn't for Bunbury's extraordinarily bad health, for instance, I wouldn't be able to dine with you tonight at Willis's, because I've been engaged to Aunt Augusta for over a week.
I haven't asked you to dine with me anywhere tonight.
Yes, I know. And you're absurdly careless about sending out invitations. It's very foolish of you. Nothing annoys people more as not receiving invitations. That must be Aunt Augusta. Only relatives or creditors ever ring in that Wagnerian manner. Now, if I get rid of Aunt Augusta for, say, 10 minutes, so that you can have an opportunity for proposing to Gwendolen, may I dine with you tonight at Willis's?
Oh, I suppose so, if you want to.
Yes, but you really must be serious about it. I hate people who are not serious about meals.
Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax.
Good afternoon, dear Algernon. I hope you are behaving very well.
I'm feeling very well, Aunt Augusta.
That's not quite the same thing at all. In fact, the 2 things very rarely go together.
Dear me, Gwendolen, you are smart.
I am always smart. Am I not, Mr. Worthing?
You are quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, I hope I am not that. It would leave no room for developments, and I intend to develop in many directions.
I'm sorry if we're a little late, Algernon. I will have a cup of tea and one of those nice cucumber sandwiches you promised me.
Yeah, certainly, Aunt Augusta. Here. Oh, good heavens. Lane, Why are there no cucumber sandwiches? I mean, I ordered them specially.
There were no cucumbers in the market this morning, sir. I went down twice.
No cucumbers?
No, sir, not even for ready money.
Oh, well, that will do, Lane. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, I'm greatly distressed, Aunt Augusta, about there being no cucumbers, not even for ready money.
It really makes no matter, Algernon. I've quite a treat for you tonight, Algernon. I'm going to send you down with Mary Farker.
Oh, I'm afraid, Aunt Augusta, I shall have to give up the pleasure of dining with you tonight after all.
I hope not, Algernon.
Well, the fact is, I've just had a telegram to say that my poor friend, Bunbury, is very ill again. They seem to think I should be with him.
I should be much obliged if you would ask Mr. Bunbury, from me, to be kind enough not to have a relapse on Saturday, for I rely on you to arrange my music for me. It is my last reception and I want something that will encourage conversation.
Well, I'll speak to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he's still conscious. I think I can promise you he'll be all right by Saturday. Of course, the music is a great difficulty, but I'll run over the programme I've drawn out. If you would kindly come into the next room for a moment with me.
Thank you, Algernon. It's very thoughtful of you. I'm sure the programme will be delightful after a few expurgations. Gwendolen, you will accompany me.
Oh, certainly, Mamma. Mr. Worthing?
Charming day it has been, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, pray don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I always feel quite certain they mean something else, and that makes me nervous.
I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I am never wrong.
And I would like to be allowed to take advantage of Lady Bracknell's temporary absence.
I would certainly advise you to do so. Mamma has a way of coming back suddenly into a room that I have often had to speak to her about.
Miss Fairfax, ever since I met you, I have admired you more than any girl I have ever met since I met you.
Oh, yes, I am quite well aware of the fact. And I often wish that in public, at any rate, that you had been more demonstrative. For me, you have always had an irresistible fascination. Even before I met you, I was far from indifferent to you. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideals, and my ideal has always been to love someone of the name of Earnest. There is something in that name that inspires absolute confidence. The moment that Algernon first mentioned to me that he had a friend called Earnest, I knew I was destined to love you.
You really love me, Gwendolen.
Oh, passionately.
Oh, darling, you don't know how happy you've made me.
Oh, my own Earnest.
But you don't really mean to say you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Earnest.
But your name is Earnest.
Oh, yes, I know it is. But supposing it was something else, do you mean to say you couldn't love me then?
Oh, well, that is clearly a metaphysical speculation, and like most metaphysical speculations, has very little reference at all to the actual facts of real life as we know them.
Personally, darling, to speak quite candidly, I don't much care about the name of Earnest. I don't think the name suits me.
Oh, it suits you perfectly. It is a divine name. It has a music of its own. It produces vibrations.
Well, really, Gwendolen, I must say that I think there are a lot of other much nicer names. I think Jack, for instance, a charming name.
Jack, no. There is very little music in the name Jack, if any at all, indeed. I have known several Jacks, and they all, without exception, were more than usually plain. Besides, Jack is a notorious domesticity for John. No, the only really safe name is Earnest.
Oh, Gwendolen, I must get christened at once. I mean, we must get married at once.
Married, Mr. Worthing?
Well, surely. You know that I love you, and you led me to believe, Miss Fairfax, though you were not absolutely indifferent to me.
Oh, I adore you. But you haven't proposed to me yet.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I think it would be an admirable opportunity, and to spare you any possible disappointment, Mr. Worthing, I think it only fair to tell you quite frankly beforehand that I am fully determined to accept you.
Oh, Gwendolen.
Yes, Mr. Worthing, what have you got to say to me?
You know what I've got to say to you.
Yes, but you don't say it.
Gwendolen, will you marry me?
Oh, of course I will, darling. How long you have been about it. I'm afraid you've had very little experience on how to propose.
Mine own one, I have never loved anyone in the world but you.
Yes, but men often propose for practice. I know my brother Gerald does. All my girlfriends tell me so.
Mr. Worthing, rise, sir, from this semi-recumbent posture. It is most indecorous.
Oh, Mamma, I must beg you to retire. This is no place for you. Besides, Mr. Worthing has not quite finished yet.
Finished what, may I ask?
I am engaged to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Pardon me, you are not engaged to anyone. When you do become engaged to someone, I will inform you of the fact. An engagement should come on a young girl as a surprise, pleasant or unpleasant as the case may be. It is hardly a matter she could be allowed to arrange for herself. And now I have a few questions to put to you, Mr. Worthing. While I'm making these inquiries, you, Gwendolen, will wait for me below in the carriage.
Mamma!
In the carriage, Gwendolen. Now, Mr. Worthing.
Yes, Lady Bracknell.
I feel bound to tell you that you are not down on my list of eligible young men. However, I'm quite ready to enter your name should your answers be what a really affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke?
Well, yes, I must admit I smoke.
I'm glad to hear it. A man should always have an occupation of some kind. There are far too many idle men in London as it is. Now, I have always been of the opinion that a man who desires to get married should know either everything or nothing. Which do you know?
Oh, I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
I am pleased to hear it. I do not approve of anything that tampers with natural ignorance. Fortunately, in England, at any rate, education produces no effect whatsoever. What is your income?
Between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
In land or investments?
In investments, chiefly.
Well, that is satisfactory.
I have a country house with some land, of course, attached to it, about 1,500 acres, I believe, but I don't depend on that for my real income.
You have a townhouse, I hope. A girl with a simple, unspoiled nature like Gwendolen could hardly be expected to reside in the country.
Well, I own a house in Belgrave Square, but it is let by the year to Lady Bloxham.
Lady Bloxham. I don't know her.
Oh, she goes about very little. She's a lady considerably advanced in years.
Nowadays, that is no guarantee of respectability of character. Now, to minor matters. Are your parents living?
I have lost both my parents.
To lose one parent, Mr. Worthing, may be regarded as a misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness. Who was your father?
I'm afraid I really don't know. The fact is, Lady Bracknell, I said I'd lost my parents. It would be nearer the truth to say that my parents seem to have lost me. I don't actually know who I am by birth. I was found.
Found?
The late Mr. Thomas Cardew, an old gentleman of a very charitable and kindly disposition, found me and gave me the name of Worthing, because he happened to have a first-class ticket for Worthing in his pocket at the time. Worthing is a place in Sussex. It is a seaside resort.
Where did the charitable gentleman who had a first-class ticket for this seaside resort find you?
In a handbag.
A handbag?
Yes, Lady Bracknell. I was in a handbag, a somewhat large black leather handbag with handles to it, an ordinary handbag, in fact.
So in what locality did this Mr. James, or Thomas Cardew, come across this ordinary handbag?
In the cloakroom at Victoria Station. It was given to him in mistake for his own.
The cloakroom at Victoria Station?
Yes, the Brighton line.
The line is immaterial. Mr. Worthing, I confess I feel somewhat bewildered by what you've just told me. To be born, or at any rate bred, in a handbag, whether it had handles or not, seems to me to display a contempt for the ordinary decencies of family life that reminds one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution.
May I ask you what you would advise me to do? I need hardly say I would do anything in the world to ensure Gwendolen's happiness.
I would strongly advise you, Mr. Worthing, to try and acquire some relations as soon as possible. and to make a definite effort to produce at any rate one parent of either sex before the season is quite over.
Well, I don't see how I could possibly manage to do that. I can produce the handbag at any moment. It is in my dressing room at home. I really think that should satisfy you, Lady Bracknell.
Me, sir? What has it to do with me? You can hardly imagine that I and Lord Bracknell would dream of allowing our only daughter, a girl brought up with the utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with the parcel. Good afternoon, Mr. Worthing.
Good afternoon, Lady Bracknell.
Bum ba-dum, ba-da, da, da. What happened? Didn't it go off all right, old boy? You don't mean to say Gwendolen refused you?
Oh, Gwendolyn's as right as a trivet. As far as she's concerned, we are engaged. Her mother is perfectly unbearable. Never met such a gorgon. I don't really know what a gorgon is like, but I'm sure that Lady Bracknell is one. You don't think there's any chance of Gwendolen becoming like her mother in like 150 years, do you, Algy?
Well, all women become like their mothers. That is their tragedy. And no man does. That's his.
Is that clever?
But it's perfectly phrased. It's quite as true as any observation in civilized life should be. By the way, did you tell Gwendolen the truth about your being Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
My dear fellow, the truth isn't quite the sort of thing one tells to a nice, sweet, refined girl. Besides, before the end of the week, I shall have got rid of Ernest. He's going to be carried off suddenly in Paris by a severe chill.
I thought you said that Miss Cardew was a little too much interested in your poor brother Ernest. Wouldn't she feel his loss a good deal?
Oh, that is all right. Cecilia is not a silly romantic girl, I'm glad to say. She's got a capital appetite, goes long walks and pays no attention at all to her lessons.
I would rather like to see Cecily.
I will take very good care you never do. She's excessively pretty and she's only just 18.
Well, have you told Gwendolen yet that you have an excessively pretty ward who is only just 18?
One doesn't blurt these things out to people. Cecily and Gwendolen are perfectly certain to be extremely great friends. I bet you anything that like after half an hour if they have met, they will be calling each other sister.
Well, women only do that when they've called each other a lot of other things first. Gwendolen, upon my word.
Oh, Algy, kindly turn your back. I have something very in particular to say to Mr. Worthing.
Really, Gwendolen, I don't think I can allow this at all.
Oh, my own darling.
Ernest, we may never be married. From the expression on Mamma's face, I fear we never shall. But although she may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and I may marry someone else and marry often, nothing she can possibly do can alter my eternal devotion to you. Your Christian name has an irresistible fascination, and the simplicity of your character makes you exquisitely incomprehensible to me. Your town address I have. What is your address in the country?
The Manor House, Walton, Hertfordshire.
Oh, there is a good postal service, I suppose. It may be necessary to do something desperate.
Oh, mine own one.
Oh, Lane, tomorrow, Lane, I'm going Bunburying.
Yes, sir.
And I shall probably not be back until Monday. So you can put up my dress clothes, all my smoking jacket, and all the Bunbury suits.
Yes, sir.
If you don't take care, your friend Bunbury will get you into serious scrape someday.
Well, I love scrapes. And they're the only things that are never serious.
Oh, that's nonsense, Algy. You never talk anything but nonsense.
Nobody ever does.
Cecily! Your German grammar is on the table. Where have you gone?
But I don't like German. It isn't all a becoming language. I know perfectly well that I look quite plain after my German lesson.
Child, you know how anxious your guardian is that you should improve yourself in every way. He laid particular stress on your German as he was leaving yesterday.
Oh, dear Uncle Jack is so very serious. Sometimes he's so serious that I think he cannot be quite well.
Your guardian enjoys the best of health. and his gravity of demeanour is especially to be commended in one so comparatively young as he is. I know no one who has a higher sense of duty and responsibility.
I suppose that's why he often looks a little bored when we three are together.
Cecily, I'm surprised at you. Mr. Worthing has many troubles in his life. Idle merriment and triviality would be out of place in his conversation. You must remember his constant anxiety about that unfortunate young man, his brother, Earnest.
I wish Uncle Jack would allow that unfortunate young man, his brother Ernest, to come down here sometimes. We might have a good influence over him, Miss Prism.
Oh, you must put away your diary, Cecily. I really don't see why you should keep a diary at all.
I keep a diary in order to enter the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't write them down, I should probably forget all about them.
Memory, my dear Cecily, is the diary that we all carry about with us.
Yes, but it usually chronicles the things that have never happened and couldn't possibly have happened. I believe that memory is responsible for nearly all the 3-volume novels that the library sends us.
Oh, do not speak slightingly of the 3-volume novel, Cecily. I wrote one myself in my earlier days.
Did you really, Miss Prism? How wonderfully clever you are. I hope it did not end happily. I don't like novels that end happily. They depress me so much.
Well, the good ended happily and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means.
Well, I suppose so. And was your novel ever published?
Alas, no. The manuscript, unfortunately, was abandoned. I use the word in the sense of lost or mislaid. Now, to your work, child. These speculations are profitless.
Oh, but I see Dear Dr. Chasuble coming up.
Oh, Dr. Chasuble, this is indeed a pleasure.
How are we this morning? Miss Prism, you are, I trust, well?
Miss Prism has just been complaining of a slight headache. I think it would do her so much good to have a short stroll with you in the park, Dr. Chasuble.
Cecily, I've not mentioned anything about a headache.
No, dear Miss Prism, I know that, but I felt instinctively that you had a headache. Indeed, I was thinking about that and not about my German lesson when the rector arrived.
I hope, Cecily, you are not inattentive.
Oh, I'm afraid I am.
That is strange. Were I fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's pupil, I would hang upon her lips. I spoke metaphorically. My metaphor was drawn from bees. Mr. Worthing, I suppose, has not returned from London yet?
We do not expect him till Monday afternoon.
Ah, yes, he's usually likes to spend his Sunday in London. He's not one of those whose sole aim is enjoyment, as by all accounts that unfortunate young man, his brother, seems to be. But I must not disturb Egeria and her pupil any longer.
Egeria? My name is Letitia, Doctor.
A classical allusion merely, drawn from the pagan authors. I shall see you both, no doubt, at evensong.
I think, dear Doctor, I will have a stroll with you. I find I have a headache, after all, and I think a walk might do it good. Cecily, you will read your political economy in my absence.
Horrid political economy, horrid geography, horrid German.
Ernest Worthing has driven over from the station. He has brought his luggage with him.
Mr. Ernest Worthing, B for the Albany. Oh, Uncle Jack's brother. Did you tell him Mr. Worthing was in town?
Yes, miss. He seemed very disappointed. I mentioned that you and Miss Prism were in the garden. He said he was anxious to speak to you privately for a moment.
Ask Mr. Ernest Worthing to come here. I suppose you better talk to the housekeeper about a room for him.
Yes, miss.
I have never met any really wicked person before. I feel rather frightened. I'm so afraid he will look just like everyone else. Oh, he does.
Oh, you are my little cousin Cecily, I'm sure.
You are under some strange mistake. I am not little. In fact, I believe I'm more than usually tall for my age. But I am your cousin Cecily. You, I see from your card, are Uncle Jack's brother, my cousin Ernest. My wicked cousin Ernest.
Oh, I'm not very wicked at all, Cousin Cecily. You mustn't think that I'm wicked.
And if you are not, then you have certainly been deceiving us all in a very inexcusable manner. I hope you have not been leading a double life, pretending to be wicked and being really good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
Oh. Well, of course, I have been rather reckless.
I'm glad to hear it.
In fact, now you mention the subject, I've been very bad, in my own small way.
Well, I don't think you should be so proud of that, though I am sure it must have been very pleasant.
Oh, it's much pleasanter being here, with you.
I can't understand how you're here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back till Monday afternoon.
Well, that's a great disappointment. I'm obliged to go out by the first train on Monday morning. I have a business appointment that I'm anxious to miss.
Well, couldn't you miss it anywhere but in London?
No, the appointment is in London.
Oh, well, I know, of course, how important it is not to keep a business engagement. But still, I think you had better wait till Uncle Jack arrives. I know he wants to speak to you about your emigrating.
About my what?
Well, you're emigrating. He's gone up to buy your outfit.
I certainly won't let Jack buy my outfit. He has no taste in neckties at all.
Oh, I don't think you'll require neckties. Uncle Jack is sending you to Australia.
Australia? I'd sooner die.
Well, he said at dinner on Wednesday night that you would have to choose between this world, the next world, and Australia.
Oh, well, the accounts I've received of Australia and the next world are not particularly encouraging. This world is good enough for me, Cousin Cecily.
Yes, but are you good enough for it?
I'm afraid I'm not that. And that is why I want you to reform me. You might make that your mission. I mean, if you don't mind, Cousin Cecily.
Oh, I'm afraid I've no time this afternoon.
Well, would you mind my reforming myself this afternoon?
It's rather quixotic of you, but I think you should try.
Well, I will, and I feel better already.
Oh, you're looking a little worse.
Yes, but that's because I'm hungry.
Oh, how thoughtless of me. I should have remembered that when one is going to lead an entirely new life, one requires regular and wholesome meals. Won't you come in?
Thank you. Do you know, you are the prettiest girl I ever saw.
Miss Prism says that all good looks are a snare.
Well, they're a snare that every sensible man would like to be caught in.
Oh, I don't think I would care to catch a sensible man. I shouldn't know what to talk to him about.
All things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small.
You are too much alone, dear Dr. Chasuble. You should get married. You do not seem to realise, dear Doctor, that by persistently remaining single, a man converts himself into a permanent public temptation.
But is a man not equally attractive when married?
No married man is ever attractive except to his wife.
And often I've been told, not even to her.
Depends. Ripeness can be trusted. Young women are green. I spoke horticulturally. My metaphor was drawn from fruits. But where is Cecily?
Perhaps she followed us to the schools.
Mr. Worthing!
Dear Mr. Worthing, I trust this garb of woe does not betoken some terrible calamity?
My brother.
More shameful debts and extravagance?
Dead.
Your brother Ernest? Dead?
Quite dead.
What a lesson for him. I trust he will profit by it.
Mr. Worthing, I offer you my sincere condolence.
Poor Ernest. He had many faults, but it is a sad, sad blow.
Very sad indeed. Were you with him at the end?
No, he died abroad. In Paris, in fact. I had a telegram last night from the manager of the Grand Hotel.
Was the cause of death mentioned?
A severe chill, it seems.
As a man sows, so shall he reap.
Charity, dear Miss Prism, charity. None of us are perfect. You would no doubt wish me to make some slight allusion to this tragic domestic affliction next Sunday. My sermon on the meaning of the manna in the wilderness can be adapted to almost any occasion. I have preached it at harvest celebrations, christenings, confirmations, on days of humiliation, and festal days.
Ah, you are continually christening, aren't you?
It is, I regret to say, one of the rector's most constant duties in this parish. I have often spoken to the poorer classes on the subject, but they don't seem to know what Thrift is.
But is there any particular infant in whom you are interested, Mr. Worthing? Your brother was, I believe, unmarried, was he not?
Oh, yes.
People who live entirely for pleasure usually are.
But it is not for any child, dear Doctor. No, the fact is, I would like to be christened myself this afternoon, if you have nothing better to do.
Surely, Mr. Worthing, you have been christened already.
I don't remember anything about it.
Do you have any grave doubts on the subject?
Oh, I certainly intend to have. Of course, I don't know if the thing would bother you in any way, or you think I'm a little too old.
Not at all. The sprinkling of adults is a perfectly canonical practice. At which hour would you wish the ceremony performed? Would 5:30 do?
Oh, admirably, admirably.
Jack,
Cecily!
Oh, my child, my poor child.
I have got such a surprise for you. Who do you think's in the dining room? Your brother.
Who?
Your brother Ernest.
So I've enabled a breakout room for the interval. So just about everyone's been watching the play, and so far the tech seems to be holding up.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, that seems to be working.
Oh, I think we're all really enjoying performing. Even you, sir. Oh, Verity, you're brilliant.
I must say, I'm surprised myself. Debbie, I can't thank you enough for all your encouragement. It's been like having a therapist. I didn't know I could be so strong.
And how did that feel, Verity?
I can't think what I've always been afraid of.
Oh, yes, it's always oneself that holds one back.
Too true.
I see Miss Prism hasn't been holding back from getting to know her professor of theology. Someone else coming out of their shell too.
Tread softly on those shells, Celia. How's my English accent, everybody?
Not bad, Ned, but I must say, when you said pagan authors, I thought you'd invented a new character called Pagan Arthur.
You're sticking with this upper class thing then, Pete? What happened to Dick Van Dyke, the cabin steward?
Yeah, all right, it's called staying in character.
Of course, the Stanislavski method isn't as popular as it was, but I do think it's marvellous. But it can be extremely draining for all concerned.
Blimey, Alex, you're very knowledgeable about acting all of a sudden.
Are you currently involved in some method acting yourself, Debbie? I see. Is that Charlie appears to be in your cabin?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm just helping Debbie polish up her vowels. The door and the window are open. We're a good distance apart.
Please return to your own cabin, Charlie!
Debbie's vowels are shiny enough as they are.
Have there been any more cases of COVID, Captain?
Mercifully not. Let's keep it that way.
So just one thing, I kept hearing message alerts pinging during the performance. I don't think the audience picked them up, but did somebody leave their mobile on?
Oh, crikey, I think that's probably me. Sorry. I'll switch it off.
I think I might be guilty too. I'm closing my phone down now.
Okay, so shall I set up for part 2, sir?
Yes, the show goes on. Keep it up, everybody. Right. Okay,
All right.
everybody, look, stay on at the end of the play. I'll see you all then.
Aye, Captain.
Hi, Captain. Just starting up the thing again, and oh God, what happened? Oh no! Why are these cats got? Sorry. Just starting.
Who thinks in the dining room? Your brother Ernest. He arrived about half an hour ago.
What nonsense! I haven't got a brother.
Oh, don't say that. However badly he may have behaved to you in the past, he's still your brother. You couldn't be so heartless as to disown him.
These are very joyful tidings.
After we had all been resigned to his loss. His sudden return seems to be peculiarly distressing.
Good heavens.
Brother John, I've come down from town to tell you that I am very, very sorry for all the trouble I've given you, and that I intend to lead a better life in the future.
Uncle Jack, are you not going to forgive your own brother?
Nothing will induce me to. I think he's coming down here disgraceful. He knows perfectly well why.
Oh, Uncle Jack, do be nice. There is some good in everyone. Ernest has just been telling me about his poor invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury.
Oh, he's been talking about Bunbury, has he? Well, I won't have him talk to you about Bunbury or about anything else.
Well, of course, I admit the faults were all on my side, but I must say that I think that Brother John's coldness to me is peculiarly painful.
Uncle Jack, if you don't make up with Ernest, I will never forgive you.
Never forgive me?
Never, never, never.
Well, this is the last time I shall ever do it.
I think we might leave the two brothers alone together.
Cecily, you will come with us.
Certainly, Miss Prism. My little task of reconciliation is over.
You young scoundrel, Algy. You must get out of this place as soon as possible. I don't allow Bunbury here.
I have put Mr. Earnest things in the room next to yours, sir. I suppose that is all right.
What? No! Order the dog cart at once. Mr. Earnest has been suddenly called back to town.
Yes, sir.
What a fearful liar you are, Jack. I have not been called back to town at all.
Yes, you have.
I haven't heard anyone call me.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
My duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasures in the smallest degree.
I can quite understand that.
And well, Cecily is a darling.
You're not to talk of Miss Cardew like that. I don't like it.
Yeah, well, I don't like your clothes. I think it's perfectly childish to be in deep mourning for a man who's actually staying for a whole week with you in your house as a guest. I call it grotesque.
You are certainly not staying with me for a whole week as a guest or anything else. You have got to leave by the 4:05 train.
I certainly won't leave you for as long as you're in mourning. Be most unfriendly. I mean, if I were in mourning, you'd stay with me, I suppose. I should think it very unkind if you didn't.
Well, will you go if I change my clothes?
Well, yes, if you're not too long. I never saw anybody take so long to dress and with such little result.
Well, at any rate, that is better than being always overdressed as you are. This bumpering, as you call it, has not been a great success for you.
I think it has been a tremendous success. I'm in love with Cecily, and that is everything, but I really must see her before I go and make arrangements for another Bunbury. Ah, there she is.
Oh, I merely came back to... I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
He's gone to order the dog cart for me.
Oh, is he going to take you for a nice drive?
He's going to send me away.
Well, then have we got to part?
I'm afraid so. It's a very painful parting.
It is always painful to part from people whom one has known for a very brief space of time. The absence of old friends one can endure with equanimity, but even a momentary separation from anyone to whom one has just been introduced is almost unbearable.
Well, I hope, Cecily, I shall not offend you if I state quite frankly and openly that you seem to me to be in every way the visible personification of absolute perfection.
I think your frankness does you great credit, Ernest. If you will allow me, I will copy your remarks into my diary.
Oh, do you really keep a diary? Oh, I'd give anything to look at it. May I?
Oh, no. You see, it's simply a very young girl's record of her own thoughts and impressions, and consequently meant for publication. When it appears in volume form, I hope you will order a copy. But pray, Ernest, don't stop. I delight in taking down from dictation. I have reached absolute perfection. You can go on. I'm quite ready for more.
Well, Cecily, ever since I first looked upon your wonderful and incomparable beauty, I've dared to love you. Wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly.
I don't think that you should tell me that you love me wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. I mean, hopelessly doesn't seem to make much sense, does it?
Cecily.
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
Oh, well, just tell it to come round next week at the same hour.
Yes, sir.
Uncle Jack would be very much annoyed if he knew you were staying on till next week at the same hour.
Oh, I don't care about Uncle Jack. I don't care for anybody in the world but you. I love you, Cecily. I mean, you will marry me, won't you?
You silly boy, of course. Why, we've been engaged for the last 3 months.
For the last 3 months? How did we become engaged?
Well, ever since dear Uncle Jack first confessed to us that he had a younger brother who was very wicked and bad, you, of course, have formed the chief topic of conversation between myself and Miss Prism. And, of course, a man who is much talked about is always very attractive. And I dare say it was foolish of me, but I fell in love with you, Ernest.
Oh, darling. And when was the engagement actually settled?
On the 14th of February last. Worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I determined to end the matter one way or the other. And after a long struggle with myself, I accepted you under this dear old tree here. And this is the box in which I keep all your dear letters.
My letters? But my own sweet Cecily, I've never written you any letters.
Well, you need hardly remind me of that, Ernest. I remember only too well that I was forced to write your letters for you.
Oh, do let me read them, Cecily.
Oh, I couldn't possibly. They would make you far too conceited. The 3 you wrote me after I had broken off the engagement are so beautiful and so badly spelled that even now I can hardly read them without crying a little.
But was our engagement ever broken off?
Oh, of course it was. On the 22nd of last March. Today I broke off my engagement with Ernest. I feel it is better to do so. The weather still continues charming.
But why? Why on earth did you break it off, Cecily? I'm very much hurt indeed that you broke it off. And particularly when the weather was so charming.
Well, it would hardly have been a really serious engagement if it hadn't been broken off at least once. But I forgave you before the week was out.
What a perfect angel you are, Cecily. And you'll never break off our engagement again.
I don't think I could break it off now that I've actually met you. I mean, besides, of course, there is the question of your name.
Yes. yes, of course.
And you must not laugh at me, darling, but it had always been a girlish dream of mine to love someone whose name was Earnest. There is something in that name that seems to inspire absolute confidence.
But my dear child, do you mean to say you could not love me if I had some other name?
What name?
Well, any name you like. Algernon, for instance.
Oh, but I don't like the name of Algernon.
Oh, well, my own dear, sweet, loving little darling Cecily, I really can't see why you should object to the name of Algernon. It's not a bad name at all. In fact, it's rather an aristocratic name. Seriously. Cecily, if my name was Algie, couldn't you love me?
Well, I might respect you, Ernest. I might admire your character. But I fear that I should not be able to give you my undivided attention.
Cecily, your rector here is, I suppose, thoroughly experienced in the practice of all the rites and ceremonials of the church.
Oh, yes, Dr. Chasuble is a most learned man.
Well, I must see him at once on a most important christening. I mean, on most important business.
Oh?
I shan't be away more than half an hour.
Considering that we've been engaged since February the 14th and that I only met you today for the first time, I think it is rather hard that you should leave me for so long a period as half an hour. Can you make it 20 minutes?
Oh, I'll be back in no time.
What an impetuous boy he is. I must enter his proposal in my diary.
And Miss Fairfax has just called to see Mr. Worthing. On very important business, Miss Fairfax states.
Well, isn't Mr. Worthing in his library?
Mr. Worthing went over in the direction of the rectory some time ago.
Pray, ask the lady to come out here. Mr. Worthing is sure to be back soon. Oh, and you can bring tea. Miss Fairfax. I suppose one of the many good elderly women who were associated with Uncle Jack in some of his philanthropic work in London. Pray, let me introduce myself to you. My name is Cecily Cardew.
Oh, what a very sweet name. Something tells me that we are going to be great friends. I like you already more than I can say. My first impressions of people are never wrong.
Well, how nice of you to like me so much after we have known each other such a comparatively short time.
I may call you Cecily, may I not?
With pleasure.
And you will always call me Gwendolen, won't you?
If you wish.
And it is all quite settled, is it not?
I hope so.
You You are here on a short visit, I suppose.
Oh, no, I live here.
Really? Oh, well, your mother, no doubt, or some female relative of advanced years resides here also.
Oh, no, I have no mother. Or, in fact, any relations. I am Mr. Worthing's ward.
Oh, it is strange. He never mentioned to me that he had a ward. Ah, secretive of him. He grows more interesting hourly. I'm not sure, however, that the news inspires me with feelings of unmixed delight. In fact, if I may speak candidly, Cecily, I wish you were fully 42 and more than usually plain for your age. Ernest has a strong, upright nature. He is the very soul of truth and honour. But even men of the noblest possible moral character are extremely susceptible to the influence of the physical charms of others.
I beg your pardon, Gwendolen. Did you say Ernest?
Yes.
Oh, but it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is my guardian. It is his brother, his elder brother.
Oh, Ernest never mentioned to me that he had a brother.
I'm sorry to say they haven't been on good terms for a long time.
Ah, that accounts for it. You are quite sure that it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is your guardian?
Quite sure. In fact, I'm going to be his.
I beg your pardon?
Dearest Gwendolen, there's no reason why I should make it a secret of it to you. Mr. Ernest Worthing and I are engaged to be married.
My darling Cecily, I think there must be some slight error. Mr. Ernest Worthing is engaged to me.
I'm afraid you must be under some misconception. Ernest proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago.
It is certainly very curious, for he asked me to be his wife yesterday afternoon at 5:30. If you would care to verify the incident, pray do so. I never travel without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read in the train. I'm so sorry, dear Cecily, if it is any disappointment to you, but I'm afraid I have the prior claim.
It would distress me more than I can tell you, dear Gwendolen, if it caused you any mental or physical anguish. But I feel bound to point out that since Ernest proposed to me, Hugh has clearly changed his mind.
If the poor fellow has been entrapped into any foolish promise, I shall consider it my duty to rescue him at once and with a firm hand.
Whatever unfortunate entanglement my dear boy may have got into, I will never reproach him with it after we are married.
Do you allude to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? You are presumptuous. On an occasion of this kind, it becomes more than a moral duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
You suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you? This is no time for wearing the shallow mask of manners. When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
Well, I am glad to say that I have never seen a spade. It is obvious that our social spheres have been widely different.
Shall I lay tea here as usual, miss?
Yes, as usual. May I offer you some tea, Miss Fairfax?
Thank you.
Sugar?
No, thank you. Sugar is not fashionable anymore.
Cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter, please. Cake is rarely seen at the best houses nowadays.
Hand that to Miss Fairfax.
You have filled my tea with lumps of sugar. And now I asked most distinctly for bread and butter, you have given me cake. I am known for the gentleness of my disposition and the extraordinary sweetness of my nature. But I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
To save my poor, innocent, trusting boy from the machinations of any other girl, there are no lengths to which I would not go.
From the moment I saw you, I distrusted you. I felt you were false and deceitful, and I am never deceived in such matters. My first impressions of people are invariably right.
It seems to me, Miss Fairfax, that I am trespassing on your valuable time. No doubt you have many other calls of a similar character to make in the neighbourhood.
Oh, Ernest! Ernest, my own Ernest!
Oh, Gwendolen, darling!
A moment. May I ask if you are engaged to be married to this young lady?
Dear little Cecily, of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you.
I knew there must be some misunderstanding, Miss Fairfax. The gentleman whose arm is at present round your waist is my guardian, Mr. John Worthing.
I beg your pardon?
Well, this is Uncle Jack.
Jack? Oh.
Cecily,
Here is Ernest.
Oh.
my own love.
A moment, Ernest. May I ask you, are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
To what young lady? Oh, good heavens. Gwendolen!
Yes, to good heavens, Gwendolen.
Well, of course not. I mean, what could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Oh, thank you.
Well, I felt there was some slight error, Miss Cardew. The gentleman who is now embracing you is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrief.
Algernon Moncrief? Oh, are you called Algernon?
I cannot deny it.
Oh.
Is your name really John?
I could deny it if I liked, but my name certainly is John.
A gross deception has been practiced on both of us.
Oh, my poor wounded Cecily.
My sweet wronged Gwendolen.
You will call me sister, will you not?
Oh,
There is just one question I would like to be allowed to ask my guardian.
An admirable idea. Mr. Worthing, there is just one question I would like to be permitted to put to you. Where is your brother Ernest? We are both engaged to be married to your brother Ernest. So it is a matter of some importance to us to know where your brother Ernest is at present.
Gwendolen, Cecily, I will tell you quite frankly that I have no brother Ernest.
No brother at all?
None.
Had you never a brother of any kind?
Never, not even of any kind.
Well, I am afraid it is quite clear, Cecily, that neither of us is engaged to be married to anyone.
It is not a very pleasant position for a young girl suddenly to find herself in, is it?
No. Let us go into the house. They will hardly venture to come after us there.
No, men are so cowardly, aren't they?
They are.
This ghastly state of things is what you call bumbering, I suppose.
yes. It's the most wonderful Bunbury I've ever had in my life.
Well, the only small satisfaction I have in the whole of this wretched business is that your friend Bunbury is quite exploded, and a very good thing too.
Well, your brother is a little off colour, isn't he, dear Jack? And not a bad thing either.
As for your conduct towards Miss Cardew, I must say that your taking in a sweet, simple, innocent girl like that is quite inexcusable. To say nothing of the fact she is my ward.
Oh, I concede no possible defence at all for your deceiving a brilliant, clever, thoroughly experienced young lady like Miss Fairfax, to say nothing of the fact that she is my cousin.
I wanted to be engaged to Gwendolen, that is all. I love her.
Well, I simply wanted to be engaged to Cecily. I adore her.
There is certainly no chance of your marrying Miss Cardew.
Well, I don't think there's much likelihood, Jack, of you and Miss Fairfax being united.
I'll wish to goodness you would go.
I've just made arrangements with Dr. Chasuble to be christened at 6:15, under the name of Earnest.
My dear fellow, I made arrangements this morning with Dr. Chasuble to be christened myself at 5:30, and I naturally will take the name of Earnest.
Yeah.
There is no evidence at all that I've ever been christened by anybody. It's entirely different in your case. You've been christened already.
Oh, yes, but I haven't been christened for years.
Yes, you have been christened. That is an important thing.
Yeah, quite so. So I know my constitution can stand it. I mean, it might make you very unwell.
Oh, that is nonsense. You are always talking nonsense, Algernon. I have already told you I want you to go. I don't want you here.
Well, I haven't quite finished my tea yet.
The fact they did not follow us at once into the house, as anyone else would have done, seems to me to show they have some sense of shame left.
Let us preserve a dignified silence. We will not be the first to speak.
Mr. Worthing, I have something very particular to ask you. Much depends upon your reply.
Gwendolen, your common sense is invaluable. Mr. Moncrief, kindly answer me the following question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
In order that I might have an opportunity of meeting you.
Well, that certainly seems a satisfactory explanation, does it not?
Yes, dear, if you can believe him. Mr. Worthing, what explanation can you offer to me for pretending to have a brother? Was it in order that you might have an opportunity of coming up to town to see me as often as possible?
Can you doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
Oh, I have the gravest doubts upon the subject, but I intend to crush them. Well, their explanations appear to be quite satisfactory, especially Mr. Worthing's.
I am more than content with what Mr. Moncrief said. His voice alone inspires one with absolute credulity.
Then you think we should forgive them?
Yes. I mean, no.
True. I had forgotten. There are principles at stake that one cannot surrender. Which of us should tell them? The task is not a pleasant one.
Could we both not speak at the same time?
Oh, an excellent idea. Let us share the task. I shall begin. Your Christian names are still
an insuperable barrier. That is all.
Our Christian names? Is that all?
But we're going to be christened this afternoon.
For my sake, you are prepared to do this terrible thing.
I am.
What, to please me, you're ready to face this fearful ordeal?
I am.
Oh, how absurd to talk of the equality of the sexes. Where questions of self-sacrifice are concerned, men are infinitely beyond us.
We are.
Oh.
Lady Bracknell.
Oh, good heavens.
Gwendolen, what does this mean?
Merely that I am engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Calm yourself, not another word. Mr. Worthing, you will clearly understand that all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately from this moment.
I'm engaged to be married to Gwendolen, Lady Bracknell.
You are nothing of the kind, sir. And now, as regards Algernon. Algernon?
Yes, Aunt Augusta?
May I ask if it is in this house that your invalid friend Mr. Bunbury resides?
Oh, no. Bunbury doesn't live here. Bunbury is somewhere else at present. In fact, Bunbury is dead.
Dead? When did Mr. Bunbury die?
Oh, I killed Bunbury this afternoon. I mean, poor Bunbury died this afternoon.
Oh, what did he die of?
Bunbury? He was quite exploded.
Exploded? Was he the victim of a revolutionary outrage?
Oh, my dear Aunt Augusta, I mean, he was found out. I mean, the doctors found out that Bunbury could not live, and that's what I mean. So Bunbury died.
Well, now that we've finally got rid of this Mr. Bunbury, may I ask, Mr. Worthing, who is that young person at whom my nephew Algernon is now gazing in what seems to me a peculiarly unnecessary manner?
That lady is Miss Cecily Cardew, my ward.
I'm engaged to be married to Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
I beg your pardon?
Mr. Moncrief and I are engaged to be married, Lady Bracknell.
Indeed. I think some preliminary inquiry on my part would not be out of place. Mr. Worthing, is Miss Cardew at all connected with any of the larger railway stations in London? I merely desire information. Until yesterday, I had no idea that there were any families or persons whose origin was a terminus.
Miss Cardew is the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Square, SW, Gervais Park, Dorking, Surrey, and the Sporran of Fifeshire.
Well, that sounds not unsatisfactory. 3 addresses always inspire confidence, even in tradesmen. But what proof have I of their authenticity?
I have carefully preserved the court guides of the period. They are open to your inspection, Lady Bracknell. I have also in my possession, you would be pleased to hear, certificates of Miss Cardew's birth, baptism, whooping cough, registration, vaccination, confirmation, and the measles, both the German and the English variety.
A life crowded with incident, I see, though perhaps somewhat too exciting for a young girl. Gwendolen, the time approaches for our departure. We have not a moment to lose. It was a matter of form, Mr. Worthing. I'd better ask you if Miss Cardew has any little fortune.
Oh, about £130,000 in the funds, that is all. Goodbye, Lady Bracknell. So pleased to have seen you.
A moment, Mr. Worthing. £130,000, and in the funds. Miss Cardew seems to me a most attractive young lady now that I look at her. Pretty child. Your dress is sadly simple, and your hair seems almost as nature might have left it. But we can soon alter all that. There are distinct social possibilities in Miss Cardew's profile.
Oh, Cecilia is the sweetest, dearest, prettiest girl in the whole world. I don't care tuppence about social possibilities.
Never speak disrespectfully of society, Algernon. Only people who can't get into it do that. Dear child, of course you know that Algernon has nothing but his debts to depend upon, but I do not approve of mercenary marriages. When I married Lord Bracknell, I had no fortune of any kind, but I never dreamt for a moment of allowing that to stand in my way. Well, I suppose I must give my consent.
Oh, thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Cecily, you may address me as Aunt Augusta for the future.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
I beg your pardon for interrupting you, Lady Bracknell, but this marriage is quite out of the question. I am Miss Cardew's guardian, and she cannot marry without my consent until she comes of age. That consent I absolutely decline to give.
Upon what grounds, may I ask? Algernon is extremely, I may almost say an ostentatiously eligible young man. But he has nothing, but he looks everything. What more can one desire?
It pains me very much to have to speak frankly to you, Lady Bracknell, about your nephew, but the fact is that I do not approve at all of his moral character. I suspect him of being untruthful.
Untruthful? My nephew Algernon? Impossible.
I fear there can be no possible doubt about the matter. This afternoon, during my temporary absence in London, on an important question of romance, he obtained admission to my house by means of the false pretence of being my brother. Continuing his disgraceful deception, he succeeded in the course of the afternoon in alienating the affections of my only ward. And what makes his conduct all the more heartless is that he was perfectly well aware from the first that I have no brother, that I never had a brother, and I don't intend to have a brother, not even of any kind.
Mr. Worthing, after careful consideration, I have decided entirely to overlook my nephew's conduct towards you.
That is very generous of you, Lady Bracknell. My own decision, however, is unalterable. I decline to give my consent.
How old are you, dear?
Well, I'm really only 18, but I always admit to 20 when I go to evening parties.
You are perfectly right in making some slight alteration. Indeed, no woman should ever be quite accurate about her age. I look so calculating. Well, it will not be very long before you are of age and free from the restraints of tutelage. So I don't think your guardian's consent is after all a matter of any importance.
Pray excuse me, Lady Bracknell, for interrupting you again, but it is only fair to tell you that according to the terms of her grandfather's will, Miss Cardew does not legally come of age till she is 35.
It does not seem to me to be a grave objection. 35 is a very attractive age. I see no reason why our dear Cecily should not be even still more attractive at the age you mention than she is at present. There'll be a large accumulation of property.
Algy, could you wait for me till I was 35?
Of course I could, Cecily. You know I could.
Yes, I felt it instinctively, but I couldn't wait all that time. I hate waiting even 5 minutes for anybody. It always makes me rather cross.
My dear Mr. Worthing, as Miss Cardew states positively that she cannot wait until she is 35, a remark which I'm bound to say seems to me to show a somewhat impatient nature, I would beg of you to reconsider your decision.
But my dear Lady Bracknell, the matter is entirely in your own hands. The moment you consent to my marriage with Gwendolen, I will most gladly allow your nephew to form an alliance with my ward.
That is not the destiny I propose for Gwendolen. Algernon, of course, can choose for himself. Oh, come, dear, we have already missed 5, if not 6 trains. To miss any more might expose us to comment on the platform.
Everything is quite ready for the christenings.
The christenings, sir? Is not that somewhat premature?
Both these gentlemen have expressed a desire for immediate baptism.
Their age? Oh, the idea is grotesque and irreligious. Algernon, I forbid you to be baptised. I will not hear of such
Am I
excess.
to understand that there are to be no christenings at all this afternoon?
I don't think that, as things are now, it would be much of a practical value to either of us, Dr. Chasuble.
As your present mood seems to be peculiarly secular, I will return to the church at once. Indeed, I have just been informed by the pew opener that for the last hour and a half, Miss Prism has been waiting for me in the vestry.
Prism? Did I hear you mention a Miss Prism?
Yes, Lady Bracknell, I am on my way to her now.
Well, pray allow me to detain you for a moment. Is this Miss Prism a female of repellent aspect, remotely connected with education?
Well, she is the most cultivated of ladies and the very picture of respectability.
Obviously the same person. May I ask what position she holds in your household?
Miss Prism, Lady Bracknell, has been for the last 3 years Miss Cardew's esteemed governess and valued companion.
In spite of what I hear of her, I must see her at once. Let her be sent for.
She approaches. She is nigh.
Oh, I was told you expected me in the vestry, dear Canon. I've been waiting for you there for 1 hour and 3/4.
Prism. Prism, where is that baby? 28 years ago, Prism, you left Lord Bracknell's house in charge of a perambulator that contained a baby of the male sex. You never returned. A few weeks later, the perambulator was discovered at midnight, standing by itself in a remote corner of Bayswater. It contained the manuscript of a 3-volume novel of more than usually revolting sentimentality. But the baby was not there. Prism, where is that baby?
Oh, Lady Bracknell, I admit with shame that I do not know. The plain facts of the case are these. On the morning of the day that you mention, I prepared as usual to take the baby out in its perambulator. I had also with me a somewhat old but capacious handbag in which I had intended to place the manuscript of a work of fiction that I had written during my few unoccupied hours. In a moment of mental abstraction for which I never can forgive myself, I deposited the manuscript in the bassinet and placed the baby in the handbag.
But where did you deposit the handbag?
Oh, do not ask me, Mr. Worthing.
Oh, Miss Prism, this is a matter of no small importance to me. I insist on knowing where you deposited the handbag that contained that infant.
I left it in the cloakroom of one of the larger railway stations.
What railway station?
Victoria. The Brighton line.
I must retire to my room for a moment. Gwendolen, wait for me here.
Oh, if you are not too long, I will wait here for you all my life.
What do you think this means, Lady Bracknell?
Cannot even suspect, Dr. Chasuble.
Oh, the suspense is terrible. I hope it will last.
Is this the handbag, Miss Prism? Examine it carefully before you speak. The happiness of more than one life depends on your answer.
It seems to be mine. Yes, here is the stain on the lining caused by the explosion of a temperance beverage, an incident that occurred at Leamington. And here on the lock are my initials. I had forgotten that in an extravagant mood I had placed them there. Oh, the bag is undoubtedly mine. I'm delighted to have it so unexpectedly restored to me. Oh, it has been a great inconvenience being without it all these years.
Oh, Miss Prism, more is restored to you than this handbag. I was the baby you placed in it.
You?
Yes, Mother.
Oh, Mr. Worthing, I am unmarried.
Unmarried? I do not deny that is a serious blow. But after all, who has the right to cast a stone against one who has suffered? Why should there be one law for men and another for women? Oh, Mother, I forgive you.
Mr. Worthing, there is some error. There is the lady who can tell you who you really are.
Lady Bracknell, I hate to seem inquisitive, but Would you kindly inform me whom I am?
You are the son of my poor sister, Mrs. Moncrief, and consequently, Algernon's elder brother.
Alger's elder brother? Then I have a brother after all. I knew I had a brother. I always said I had a brother. Oh, Cecily, how could you have ever doubted that I had a brother? Algy, you young scoundrel, you will have to treat me with more respect in the future. You have never behaved to me like a brother in all your life.
Ah, well, not till today, old boy, I admit. I did my best, however. That's out of practice.
My own! But what own are you? What is your Christian name now that you have become someone else?
Your decision on the subject of my name is irrevocable, I suppose.
Oh, I never change, except in my affections.
What a noble nature you have, Gwendolen.
Then the question had better be cleared up at once. Aunt Augusta, at the time when Miss Prism left me in the handbag, had I been christened already?
Every luxury that money could buy, including christening, had been lavished on you by your fond and doting parents.
That I was christened. That is settled. Now, what name was I given? Let me know the worst.
Well, being the eldest son, you were naturally christened after your father.
Yes, but what was my father's Christian name?
I cannot at the present moment recall what the General's Christian name was, but I have no doubt he had one.
Algy, can't you recollect what our father's Christian name was?
Dear boy, we were never even on speaking terms. He died before I was a year old.
But his name would appear in the army lists of the period, I suppose, Aunt Augusta.
Well, the General was essentially a man of peace, except in his domestic life, but I have no doubt his name would appear in any military directory.
Well, the army lists of the last 40 years are here. These delightful records should have been my constant study. M. Generals. Malham, Migsby, what ghastly names they all have. Mobbs. Moncrief. Lieutenant, 1840. Captain. Lieutenant Colonel. Colonel. General, 1869. Christian names. Ernest. John. I always told you, Gwendolen, my name was Ernest, didn't I?
Oh, Ernest, my own Ernest.
Letitia!
Frederick, at last!
Cecily, at last!
Gwendolen, at last!
My nephew, you seem to be displaying signs of triviality.
On the contrary, Aunt Augusta, I've now realised for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest.
Oh, that was so good. So we are back in our breakout room, sir.
Oh, yes, thank you, Deesh. Good job. Hey, good job, everybody.
Yes, good job.
Well done. Hey, smash it.
I was able to watch the second half properly, and you were all terrific. Alexandra, you could be a professional actress.
Well, it's funny you should say that because
And our two leading men were hilarious. Charlie, you did really well with those accents.
Well, surprisingly easy, actually. Hey, Pete, you took to it, man, like a duck to water. You'd eaten, man. Come to think of it, you look familiar, Pete.
Oh, Charlie, are you continuing to offer some kind of tuition to the cast members? Only you appear to be in Kate and thereby also Celia's cabin.
Be caught out in one cabin, Charlie, may be regarded as a misfortune. To be caught out twice looks like bloody carelessness.
I'll exit stage left towards my own balcony forthwith, Aunt Verity. Message received.
Aunt Verity, I like that. You are like everyone's favourite auntie. I'm going to call you that from now on.
I think I'd rather be your friend than your aunt, if that's all right with you, Debbie.
It's a deal for life.
So I'd like to request permission to stand down. It's been a long day.
Profession refused. Not while everyone's still chatting.
Kate, you've been doing a lot of chatting online during rehearsals. I'm guessing that it's Ned, not Charlie, who's the unlucky recipient. getting over the I hate men phase then?
Look, Celia, I don't think anyone wants to hear about my being dumped.
Well, it's true, isn't it?
A truth that's told with bad intent beats all the lies you can invent.
Is that something from the Bible?
No, it's William Blake, isn't it? He's my favourite poet.
Mine too.
Oh, that's lovely. It seems to me that even though Celia clearly prefers war, Kate has made peace with herself.
And as Oscar said, be yourself. Everyone else is taken. Which might have some resonance for you, Pete, I think, eh?
Me?
Well, you look so different in that Stuart's get-up. It's taken me a while, but I've got it. You and I were at school together, weren't we? Ha! Turns out you're even posher than I am, Pete.
Anything you'd like to tell us, Pete?
Come on, spill the beans.
Oh, well, all right. Actually, my name's Piers.
Piers!
I was at Eton at the same time as Chucky here, but I wanted to travel the world, and a cruise ship steward was the ideal choice. I've always thought, well, I like being really helpful and...
You're a lovely steward, Pete. Oh, sorry, Piers.
Oh, thank you. But no one would have taken me seriously with this accent now, would they, sir?
Well, it seems to me you've either under or overestimating the importance of your background. I'm damned if I can say which.
Well, so for weeks, you've been giving the best performance of us all, Pickles. No, hats off, man. No, I'd like to single out for praise the alluring Alexandra.
Thanks. An acquaintance that begins with a compliment is sure to develop into a real friendship.
But you know, you really should do this stuff for a living, you know? You are wasted in the beauty salon.
Well, the fact is, I did train to be an actor.
I knew it. Forget Oscar Wilde. This is pure Agatha Christie.
Yeah, I went to drama school and then just assumed I'd be snapped up by Hollywood, but it doesn't quite work out like that, does it?
Oh, tell me about it.
After an underwhelming season in Southampton, but and a bit part in Holby and still no agent, I decided I must have imagined I ever had any talent.
Oh, that can happen all too easily. But giving up can be the easy way out too.
Do you know, Aunt Verity, you're right. Being in this play has brought back everything I used to love about performing. I'm going to get right back on that horse.
Woo, where you go?
Yeah, and it's reminded me of everything I used to love about being part of a company. I'm so glad to know to all of you.
Here.
Yeah, go for it. Come on, speech.
Speech.
Well, thank you all for that. But first, I too would like to express my appreciation to Debbie. Without her, what would have happened?
There you go.
You've been the one at the helm, sir.
Yes, but you've kept me on course, even shown me a way a couple of times. Thank you. Secondly, I have some good news to announce. We have completed our quarantine period with no new cases, and we'll be free to disembark tomorrow.
That's fantastic.
God, finally.
Hang on. That means we're splitting up.
We can't. I mean, not so soon.
There must be a way of carrying this on. We're a family now.
Yeah, but well, you know, you can always just meet up on Zoom, you know.
Yes, but wouldn't it be great if there was a purpose to the meeting up? More than just to say hello.
Yeah.
What if we did another play like this? If people are going to have to keep quarantining, I bet there'll be a demand for some sort of distraction.
And it wouldn't matter where in the world any of us were.
Well, like if you were in Hollywood, you mean?
Boston.
Caribbean Sea.
I'd like to be in it too. Would you be willing to pull something like that together, Debbie?
Yes, but I'll tell you who I think could do it better. You, Verity. Deesh would help with the technical side in his own way, wouldn't you, Deesh?
Yeah, sure thing.
I don't know.
Oh, go on, Aunt Verity.
Oh, don't hold yourself back, Verity.
All right, I will. But you've all got to stop calling me aunt. Deesh, please send everyone a link for our first meeting in, 2 weeks' time?
Hi, Captain.
Right, that's agreed then. Maybe we'll even find some new members from the people watching tonight. Anyway, look, I suggest you all log off now. Start packing. There'll be further announcements tomorrow. Good night. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Night, everyone.
Well done.
Bye.
Well done.
So good. See you soon, everyone. Celia, you know, I was What do you actually do on your laptop all day in the bathroom?
Well, if you must know, I'm trying to write a script. I'm calling it Love in a Time of COVID.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Well, what I really want to do later is I want to direct. So,
Dream on.
but Alex, you haven't logged off. Your camera's on. Everyone's watching. God.
My Bunburying extends well beyond Shropshire.
No.
Something familiar, something peculiar, something for everyone, a comedy tonight. Something appealing, something appalling, something for everyone, a comedy tonight. Nothing with kings, nothing with crowns. Bring on the lovers, liars, and clowns. Old situations, new complications. Nothing portentous or polite. Tragedy tomorrow, comedy tonight.